Welcome to Bigger Sister channel. My name is Estelle Lucas and I'm developing an educational program to economically empower sex workers. But what does that even mean? Today in this video, I'm going to go through my research that I've done with the sex working community, and I'm going to discuss with you my theory of the cycle of economic disempowerment. Last year, I won the Kenneth Meyer Innovation Fellowship, and this enabled me to conduct some research and community building with my community here in Melbourne. As part of that research, I identified one key factor that was affecting all workers at some point in their lives and working career, and that was financial insecurity. But what does financial insecurity have to do with safety for sex workers? You might be thinking. Well, let me explain my research design. I designed a qualitative study where I interviewed 19 sex workers about their experience with the industry. I looked at things like administration, business management, pain points, vulnerabilities, their concerns, and the positive aspects, like what did they enjoy about the work or what was rewarding for them. Over 40 hours of transcriptions, I interpreted the data and I developed the cycle of economic disempowerment. To my left, we have the theory of the cycle of economic disempowerment. This was the outcome of my research. Now, financial insecurity, we already know through research what financial insecurity does to people. We know that people who are financially insecure have experienced more precarity. This is true across all industries and all aspects of life. And we also know that this is true because there are government-backed and corporate level financial literacy programs to improve people's financial well-being, because financially unwell people are not good workers. But there isn't such an effort with sex workers. Now, you might be wondering, how does the financial insecurity lead to precarity in the sex worker's perspective, like in a sex worker lens? I'll give you one example. In my research, I found that the most negative experiences were felt by sex workers who were operating under the management of a third party. And how this might translate is, if you're a financially insecure sex worker and you're just starting out and you don't have the funds to start your own business, you might seek the assistance of a third party for your business admin, management, and your safety and your security. But what a lot of people don't realize is these third parties do have a conflict of interest when it comes to managing your safety, because there are always going to be business decisions made that compromise on your safety. The more financially secure you are, the more bargaining power you have, the more control you have over your working conditions, the more autonomy you can exercise in the workplace. And this is true of anyone from any industry, not just sex work. Now, financial literacy is a privilege for anyone, despite what industry you're in, but for sex workers, it is a little bit different because we get discriminated by the banks, and we do have our financial capabilities systemically reduced by stigma and discrimination. Because we live in secrecy, we might not be able to tell our friends and family about our situation and get any financial help, because that will expose us to judgment and prejudice. But it's not just that. If something bad happens at work, we don't have the same support systems available to other workers because of the stigma and discrimination. So that leaves us to deal with that situation in isolation, and that makes us vulnerable, and that puts us to greater risk. And in these ways, this is how the odds are stacked against sex workers. We can get gridlocked into this cycle of vulnerability, economic disempowerment, and these structural barriers, they will impact our personal finances, and individual efforts are not enough to overcome systemic barriers. When you're financially excluded, when your financial capabilities are systemically reduced, it's not easy to leave this cycle. That's why a financial literacy program specifically for sex workers is much needed. To help illustrate this cycle even more, I'm just going to share with you my own story. So as you may already know, I started in the industry, same reason as everyone else. I was financially insecure. I wanted money. I started in the industry and I did become financially secure because of the money. But because, and I'll tell you how I got precarity in the workplace. So because I had a very stigmatizing view of the industry and sex workers, I did not seek out any peer education around safer sex practices or screening. And what that means is I was vulnerable to precarity in the workplace because of my own internalized stigma. However, I seemed to manage okay, but that all did change when I was outed to my workplace and I was not emotionally ready for that experience. I didn't identify as a sex worker. I didn't see myself as a sex worker, but suddenly I was being treated like a sex worker and I was being stigmatized as a sex worker. And that was actually a lot more dangerous than anything I would have encountered at work. Being socially ostracized by everyone that cared for you, that you thought cared for you, has a great impact on your identity, your view of yourself and worth. In fact, it was so life-changing for me that I attempted to take my life, and I didn't, obviously, but this is why we say stigma kills. I would much rather die than live as a sex worker. That's how much internalized shame I had. Anyway, so that experience put me into a mentally unwell situation, which meant I was financially insecure again. Now, I was also studying at uni at the time, and after 3 years of study, I was studying to be a public servant. And in my state of Victoria, if you do sex work, you have to get a license. And so I had this license, and when I graduated, I was looking forward to this new career change because I didn't consider myself a sex worker, remember? And I was informed that I would never get the job because of my license, and that's discrimination. And again, I'm trying to control precarity in the workplace, but it seems to me that the danger is really outside of my control, and it's got to do with people outside of the industry. There goes 3 years of education and the costs related to that out the window because of discrimination. And after that, I mean, I have many, many more examples of how these three factors interact with each other. But that's just to give you an idea. So then how do we break out of the cycle of disempowerment? How do we overcome these structural and systemic barriers that are preventing us from economically participating? What do we do when our financial capabilities are this reduced, or we're so financially excluded compared to other people from other industries? In the next video, I will go into the solution, into what I think will address all of these areas and hopefully the pathway to financial freedom. Thank you for joining me for this video where I explained what economic disempowerment means. And please follow us on our other channels. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we have our own website which you can sign up to the newsletter, and we're on Substack. So yeah,